July 9, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the charts look like today. It looked like everything was pretty much range bound. You could make an argument that, so this is the highs and this is the lows. So it's like 45 to 26. So it's about 19 points. But I would say most of the price action happened between 42 and 31. So that's only 11 points, 11 to 12 points, give or take, of price action. It was very tight trading. There were some swings, but there weren't too many setups. And it was also, excuse me, like yesterday, it was a very slow day. If you remember yesterday, something like this. It was a very slow day. Today was the same. There's only one thing that may have moved the markets, which was Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, testifying in front of Congress at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard, which is about right here. And he spoke for probably a good 45 minutes to an hour. So it was just him with a bunch of congressmen, senators asking him questions. Mainly, they're just trying to find out whether he's going to raise rates or not, his opinion on inflation, where the economy is, and most likely, probably some of those senators are going to do their insider trading because, well, my opinion is that's pretty much what a lot of them do, like Nancy Pelosi, kind of corrupt. But that's besides the point. I'm not going to discuss that. I'm discuss the chart and how I saw it today. For the most part, this was the pre-market high was here and the pre-market low was here. But then later I widened it up to here. And then later I wasn't sure if it actually moved all the way up to here. And the same thing, I had the pre-market lows. Technically, it's all the way down here, but it looked like there was some kind of support here. And it held pretty well. Then later it came down to maybe here. So this blue line, which is kind of well, equal on both sides. If I increased it, it looked like it would have worked pretty well. So I'm not 100% sure if this was the true trading range or later it morphed into this. Took a total of one trade today and was profitable. There was another trade I tried to take, but I missed it. It moved too fast for me. And then there was a big section of, I guess, dry spell where there weren't too many setups. Well, there weren't any really good setups because there was a bad signal bar or the setup just wasn't clean. So I had to leave them alone. I want to get into this charts right now. Okay, so the pre-market it spiked and then it was clearly range. It was range bound, but it's only a 7-point range, and these candles are pretty, well, a good size for a 7-point range. They're at least 1 to 2 points on a 7-point range is pretty large, especially when it's just kind of collapsing and then spiking up slowly. So now on the market it opens. You technically have a second entry long here, but it's below the EMA. EMA is flat though, but there was no other key entry points to take a trade off of, so you'd be a little bit disadvantaged. I didn't have this purple trend line drawn yet in real time because this is what you see. Then later when it bumps up, I do draw this as support. This resistance was actually a little lower and I moved it up later. It comes up to here. I see this second entry short visual and a technical second entry short. So here's a new low. It's a first entry short, second entry short. Technically, you have a third entry short, but I saw it as one leg up, pull back, a second leg up. Now, what I liked about this setup is it looks like it's hitting some kind of resistance. It's respecting it. 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. I don't know that it's a triple test yet, but then I see that it went up and it flushed down. So I think it's on its way to failing because this is technically a new localized low. I saw it as a first entry short, soon to be second entry short. I suspect there was going to be a second entry short and a visual first one push up, pull back, second push up, triple test, top of the range, visual second entry short potential because it hasn't confirmed yet, and then technical second entry short technical, meaning it hasn't confirmed yet, but it is per the count. So if you're more ambitious, because this is also a small candle risk, it's only about 5 points. So total risk of one tick above would have been like 6 points. And it looked like it would have worked. I didn't take it though. It was a little earlier. It's only 5 minutes into the trading day, and I wasn't quite in tune. But in hindsight, if this had set up a little later in the day, then I think I probably would have tried to take this. Prices then continue moving. You have a first entry long, second entry long is a bad signal bar. It does bounce off in third confirmation, but it's a doji, so I don't really like it. You do have a higher low here, but again, this higher low, I'm a little not enthusiastic about it because it does tick one tick below, but then it pushes up and it didn't quite break this guy. and it even matched the high, so it felt a little dicey for me. Prices then continue moving up. I do see this as another possible trade. It's a failed second entry short. Technically, it hasn't failed yet, so it's a new localized low. First entry short pullback. Get a second entry short here, confirmed. Here, the second entry short hasn't failed, but I do like that it's bouncing one touch, two touch, three touch. This is a potential fourth touch, so everything's going to be determined by the next candle. It bounces up. So first it opens, it does a few things, and it actually ticks one tick above. Now, it's a possible trade. It's a decent signal bar. I was wondering if there is some kind of potential resistance here. And then when I waited for this to close, it kind of closed in the middle of the bar. If it closed higher, then there might have been a trade, but then I would run into the concern of potentially running into this previously respected resistance. So if you're more aggressive, I think there's a possible trade. I was a little more conservative, so I left it alone. Of course, it flushes up, so it would have been a profitable trade, but you don't know that at the time. Because at this point, I did drag this. So it was originally here, I had an overshoot, came back down. When I saw this, that's actually when I dragged it up to here. I probably had it here at one point, but then I actually pushed it up to here later. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it there for now. Prices move up. It's testing the highs of the pre-market, which was here, and it pushed up. It looks like there's some kind of consolidation. So I actually dragged the top of the trading range up to here because it looks like there's a lot of confirmations here. Keeping in mind, I was thinking there's still a potential resistance here from the pre-market. It's getting choppy side by side, prices moving down. You have first entry long, pull back. You don't get a second entry long, and it just starts going down and breaking through this purple up channel. But this overall up channel, I wasn't too keen on it at this point because it's pretty shallow. It looks like it's more range bound. Now, whether this was still the top of the range or this one, I wasn't sure. This blue one doesn't show up till later. Drops around, so technically a first entry long pullback, second entry long. This isn't a very good, this is a decent signal bar. This is kind of, bouncing off the middle of nowhere. It did move one tick down and flush up. You could make the argument that there is enough room for a quick 1 point scalp, but I just wasn't too sure of it. I wanted a higher low. And then you technically get a higher low here, but here you're not sure it's a good higher low yet and need to close more bullish. Then when this candle opens and flashes up, the trade's already been made and it's too late. So this is actually where I actually take my one and only trade. So this is technically, the count resets down here, new localized low, first entry short, pullback, second entry short. It's also 2 legs up. It did, it did have a failed breakout here and it's coming back down. When I dragged this up to here, it was more confirmed by this resistance here. And what I liked about this trade is it ticked one tick up, flushed down, fully engulfed this bar, this candle previously, and it flushed down, and at the last moment it closed right here. So I actually like this trade, and I actually entered. I also saw it as a failed breakout of this yellow up channel, so I'm thinking prices are at least going to come back down through here. Wasn't too concerned about the EMA at this point because the EMA, for the most part, isn't super reliable. So I actually entered one at the same low of this candle here. It flushes down. It stops like one tick short of letting me exit. So I'm wondering, okay, am I going to get stopped out? Pushes up and flushes down, and it creates a lower high. Now, if you didn't enter before, this lower high confirms a second entry short. This is another chance to enter. It's an even better signal bar than this one because your risk is lower. And it flushes down. I was able to get my scalp. So there's a potential entry here, and this is actually where I entered. So if I had been more patient, waited for the lower high, would have been better. But I was okay with just taking this trade. Bounces is first entry long, second entry long, failure. But this is a doji, and I kind of want to avoid that. If I waited for this one, I would have. If I waited for, this is a failed, not a failed. This is a second entry short. If I waited too long, I don't know that I would have entered if I didn't enter already. And then here, this is my second chance. I'm pretty sure I probably would have tried to enter on this one. Nevertheless, it worked, flushes down, moves down on the screen channel. I'm watching carefully if it's going to bounce or have some kind of reaction to this low. It breaks through, it pushes back in. So I'm seeing a failed breakout. I also see this green down channel. It's a breakout this side. So I'm expecting maybe a push back through this side and an eventual move all the way back up to either this blue line or this gray line in one move or probably two. So let's push this down. So this is actually first entry short, second entry short. This isn't a good signal bar to go short on. Plus, I'm already expecting kind of a matching move here. So I wasn't sure at this point if it's going to still push up through. Creates and confirms the second entry short, goes down. It doesn't give you a lower high, and it finds some kind of resistance or support here. So I drew this blue line here, wondering if, if this trading range is going to evolve to a bigger range. So I'm just sitting on my hands right now. Prices push up. You don't get a first entry at all because this is the risk count resets, and it actually you don't get a first entry short till about here. But by that time, you're not thinking short. You're just watching this price action move all the way up. So I did see this as a break of the yellow break and tested the high. Not only did it test the high, it broke through the potential top of the range here, the potential top of the range here, and it came up and it made a double matching top. So I'm watching this and I'm counting this as first entry short, potential second entry short. I didn't have my trade ready because I wanted this ideally to close better, like close down here and back into this trading range. So I saw this as a potential resistance point. Saw a failed breakout, second entry short. I don't have my trade ready. While this is forming, it was dwelling right here. And I said, if it breaks below this candle, especially at the life of this candle, because it's a 2000 tick chart, it was kind of dancing up here and it was running out of ticks before it moves to the next bar. When it finally broke, I said, okay, I'm gonna get my order in. So I tried to drop in my order at the same lows as this, but when it broke, it flushed down really hard. It flushed down more than a point in that moment. So my order was sitting up here, it already flushed down, I think, 5 ticks. So it already made my scalp, and I knew, okay, that means I've missed the trade. Don't sit here for too long. And this candle was about to close, and I didn't want to see a gigantic pullback. So I deleted my order. It flushed down and closes at the low. So definitely I'm thinking, okay, now it's too late. I don't really want to put my order here and chase this after this was already here. I needed this candle to be better, and it would have been a perfect trade. So unfortunately, I had to pass this trade up after I missed it because I didn't want to chase it. And my initial thought was this blue line was my trading range. Then it evolved up to here, and it then later evolved up to here. I wasn't sure if it was going to see a bounce here and another push up. So that kind of, especially after the scalp had already been made. So then pushes down. So it looks like if I tried to chase it, I would have gotten filled. Debatable whether I would have gotten out. But then if I hung in there, I would have gotten the trade, probably right around here. But unfortunately, I was just too slow, missed the trade, and the signal bar just wasn't good enough for me to get my order ready faster. Prices then move down. It moves on this green down channel. There's no clean second entries that I particularly like. Bounces, and I notice on this green down channel, it breaks up and makes a new low. And then kind of, so this is what I was originally playing. But then I was thinking, as prices are moving, it's coming back down again. And I drew this red overlapping channel. So maybe it's a spike and then a more of a gradual down channel. But there was still no clean entries that I particularly liked. At this point, I draw this blue line as a potential support. So this looks a little messy, but this gray one was my initial idea of where the trading range was. And it was kind of floating in here. And actually the gray, this was actually down here in the blue. So it's actually where this blue one was until I saw this overshoot. And then I dragged it up to here and it confirmed here. And the bottom fit pretty nicely. I saw these failed breakouts. When it finally broke down through here, that's where I drew this. So my trading range is gradually getting wider. And I'm just kind of wondering, okay, do I need to still pay respect to these previous lines because it could just be failed breakouts? So I'm not too sure. I had to wait for a really good setup to feel confident. Prices move up. You have a first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short. I thought the second entry short was pretty nice, except I didn't like that this is an inside bar. And this is a, relatively speaking, a larger risk candle. So even though it's a first entry short, second entry short, since it's technically inside this one, this candle had to have just been a little smaller, or I needed a push up, break above this guy and flush down and not be an inside candle. Fortunately, I didn't get that. And I was looking for a lower high, but then you don't get that, breaks and makes a new high. Prices then start moving up on this yellow up channel. It looks like it's respecting the gray resistance. I have a first entry long. You technically have a second entry long. The second entry long doesn't look very clean. And then it looks like this second entry long is about to fail, but it has a ways to go to fail, so it's a little ambiguous. Finally, it fails here, but now I'm too far from, the price has moved too much to feel confident taking a short. Bounces, it makes a first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here. Second entry short is a bad signal bar. Is it a second entry short failure? Potentially, because it did close below here, but I'm running into all kinds of lines that I think could act as resistance. So I didn't think to reverse it, like first entry short, second entry short. Well, maybe it's a second entry short failure. It's a little too dicey for me to just think to go long, but it turns out that this would have worked out perfectly. And then it flushes up high. I drew this yellow up channel. It's a break. So I'm thinking it's going to come back down through this side and potentially move back into this trading range established by the blue. The first entry long, it creates a lower high, then it flushes down. And unfortunately, I don't see a good entry here. And so you just have to kind of sit and wait as this plays out. I did see a second entry long here. So new high, first entry long, pullback. Technically, it creates a second entry long, but the second entry long doesn't look that enticing because it's technically inside this previous bar again, like a previous setup. So I just thinking, okay, there is a break of this orange. Maybe it's going to push back to the other side. Let's see what happens. And then this candle forms like, I don't really like this at all. So I just kind of sat on my hands, especially after seeing this side by side. This is just mirror image opposites of each other because it's like the same size. This is the open, this is the close, this is the close, this is the open. So it's just like, okay, it feels very indecisive. At one point, the buyers were in charge, now the sellers are in charge. And so like, which one's gonna win out? Unsure, so I just sit. Then it grows a little bit bigger. So this candle actually engulfs both of these now. So it's like, oh, that's just looking really, really risky. And then you have two subsequent candles all within the side. So you have piano keys, and I don't really like to trade that because it's not clear right now. Breaks down, it hits the bottom here. That's where it kind of confirms this one touch, two touch, three touch, potentially a triple test, but I didn't see a setup or a good safe trade. You do have a first entry short, but it'll also be a higher low, but this is just kind of a little bit noisy. So just kind of leaving it alone. Then you have a second entry short, but this is their signal bar for the second entry short. It's a doji, didn't really like that. Moved one leg back, and I'm thinking maybe there's going to be a second attempt up, potentially into the meat of this trading range. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this because I didn't trust at this time of day. I didn't really rely on this as a potential as a concern anymore because I'm thinking more it's going to press up to the gray or maybe up to the blue. So I'm just deleting that to make things clean. Prices move, and it looks like it's hitting some kind of resistance here. So it looked like it was in its own smaller trading range here. Made one measured move, pushed all the way back. Looks like it's about to create a second measured move. So it's a push down, two attempts up, and then maybe another flush down. But the character of the day has been trading range. So I'm thinking one push down, first attempt up, pull back, second attempt up. Maybe it's going to push back up to the highs. So it actually creates a new high, first entry long, pull back. It creates a second entry long, but I also have a new low, first entry short, pull back, second entry short. And this is also where a failed second entry long would be. Actually, I didn't put that in, should be there. Failed second entry long. So this is a potential trade because you have a new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long, failure, first entry short, pullback, second entry short, and confirm second entry short. So prices, there's two things going for it to push down. Now, there was a little bit of doubt in my mind of whether there's going to be some kind of respect paid to here, but as you can see, as prices and the day evolved, this price level wasn't respected as much anymore. It broke through all these times. And so now I'm thinking the one that matters is this blue one down here. So when I see this confirmation, I'm thinking, is there a trade here? I was thinking to put my order at the same lows as here. And so when this finished, I was thinking of dropping my order here. It opened, and it wouldn't have picked me up anyways, and it would just flush down. So this isn't a missed trade because I didn't act upon it, and so I had no order waiting. But it was in hindsight like, oh, this should have been, after I see this, been a little more aggressive, maybe put it one tick below. But as you can see, even one tick below, I would not have gotten picked up. And prices move down, bounces, makes a first entry short, technically a second entry short. It's a bad signal bar to go short. This is a huge candle. I don't really know what happened here. Bounces again. So it's not respecting this line anymore, but now I'm seeing potential support here, looking for potential triple test, like a first entry long pullback, maybe a bounce off of here, second entry long with a triple test. So it does create first entry long pullback, second entry long for triple test. I saw it in real time. I don't know. I just hesitated, wasn't really thinking. I think in other times I may have just jumped on this, but as you can see, it flushes up one tick and then it would have trapped me and probably stopped me out. Then it gets congested, just kind of bounces around. And if you kept it, say, 2 ticks below, you probably would have survived up to here, and then this one would have flushed you out. So prices then continue moving. It sets up a pretty nice second entry short here. First entry short, second entry short, 2 legs back, 2 legs pushing back up. Unfortunately, this is too late in the day, so I had to leave it alone. But this is a decent signal bar. Looks like this previous bottom of the range is acting as some kind of resistance to push prices back down after 2 legs up. So this, I think, was a possible trade. Unfortunately, it's discounted because it's too late in the day. Then prices kind of get choppy and then just kind of moves into the close. So overall, it was, again, like yesterday, rather slow, but today the price action was trying to do something, but unfortunately there wasn't setups that were clean, signal bars, or the setup just wasn't quite right. I had to adjust my trading range kind of wider as we went along, and then I think, confusing myself because I wasn't sure if this bottom of the range should be respected. At this point in time, I was thinking, okay, it's actually this blue one should be respected because it previously here, it could have counted as a failed breakout, a second failed breakout, but a third one with the same consistent bounces made me think I need to drag this down to here. And then the same thing up here. Originally, the top of the range was here, then I have a failed breakout here. Another one, I dragged it up because it looked like it was more clean up here, better bounces. And later I also dragged it up here. So it was this evolving trading range. That was part of the challenge today, but it wasn't too bad because prices did kind of obey it a lot better than I've seen in previous days where it's just kind of all over the place, where you'd have all these crazy lines where the resistance seems to touch once or twice, then it decides to respect a new support or resistance line much later. And then, so it was a little bit, I guess, it was, it was easier to kind of find consistent tops and bottoms, but they were also growing or moving. So that was part of the challenge. And with the slow trading, and as you got further and deeper into the day, each of these candles took minutes to close. So that kind of made things difficult in that you had to be a lot more patient, not to, well, especially myself, I had to be a lot more patient, not suddenly start hallucinating and thinking I see trades when they weren't there. So hopefully that was helpful.